Hello, our dear friends and viewers of our channel, people of reason and common sense. In today's video, we talk about how we should eat our greens to get all their benefits and avoid potential bad effects they can be associated with. The main topic of this video is oxalic acid, oxalates, calcium, and kidney stones. Very actual and controversial nowadays. Are spinach and other greens beneficial or harmful? Many people have heard that kidney stones may develop in adults, same as kids, due to excessive intake of vegetables with high content of oxalic acid. Green leafy vegetables with high amount of oxalic acid, such as spinach, sorrel, kale, are not just green veggies, they are considered to be healing superfoods, but under the condition they are used correctly. Let's look at this closer, as we want to avoid any fallacy in this matter, as many people are misled in their understanding of this topic.
There are a lot of food products that have a high content of oxalic acid. It is abundant in many plant-based foods, especially in sour and pungent herbs, spinach, sorrel, rhubarb, amaranth, parsley, beets, Swiss chard, cacao, nuts, many kinds of berries, legumes, and so on. The most known of them is spinach. It is one of the major sources of oxalic acid, which is also called ethanoic acid, by the IUPAC system, which is the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Spinach belongs to a flowering plant commonly known as an amaranth family. It usually has sweet to sour taste, yields only 7 calories per cup, and it is rightfully considered to be a treasure chest of many nutrients. Other than oxalic acid, spinach contains citric acid, malic acid, and other organic acids. Thanks to oxalic acid, spinach possesses a lot of health benefits. It helps protect teeth and gums. It has anti-inflammatory properties, vulnerary, which means helps with healing of wounds, alterative or blood cleansing properties. It chelates heavy metals out of the body, breaks down heavy toxic waste products. The raw form of oxalic acid helps the digestive tract absorb calcium, iron, and magnesium, and support the peristaltic function of the intestine. The mineral content of spinach depends on saturation of the soil it was grown on. Spinach also contains flavonoids and polyphenols, various vitamins from A to C, most forms of vitamin B, including B9, folic acid. The real problem begins when greens are cooked. People think that they are improving what nature has already created, what God has already provided as ready-to-eat food. For some reason, we consider ourselves smarter than nature, which is fraught with many mischiefs and can be detrimental to our health. What do people do with spinach, rhubarb, kale, Swiss chard, beets, potatoes, beans, and many other products that contain oxalic acid? How do they use them for food? They cook them, boil them, fry, and make soups out of them. But the problem is namely in the form these products are taken for food, not in the products themselves, not in the green leafy vegetables or other mentioned above. Let's see how. As we see, the molecule of the oxalic acid is simple at first sight, consisting of 3 elements in each of its functional groups. It has the organic bond, which is represented in the presence of hydrogen and carbon. Therefore, it is considered to be organic acid. Additionally, oxalic acid normally occurs in living plants, and therefore, biologically, it is considered to be organic as well. Organic oxalic acid in living plants has 2 atoms of hydrogen, representing the living component, the presence of the life force, the etheric origin of being, carrier of the universal intelligence, precursor for correct enzyme production, the passcode for the body to absorb this compound correctly and not end up making a polluting waste out of it. Just this little factor defines the presence of prana, the universal consciousness, the living energy that nurtures our subtle body, mental body, and assures the correct formation of the tissues of our physical body. Many medical doctors, naturopaths, and other medical specialists now agree and admit the presence of vital energy as a separate entity beyond the anatomical structure, being in charge of physiological processes on a cellular intelligence level and subtle mechanisms of the subatomic particles. Life is a metaphysical process in charge of fine biochemical action. Prana is the consciousness in everything, including plants. It has an etheric component that is represented by hydrogen in the physical state. It communicates with our body on a subtle mental level and the cellular consciousness level, yet hidden from the scientific eye. It is highly quantum and metaphysical. It is the direction the science is working its way in. Any type of cooking leads to degradation of prana in food. This shows as a loss of vitamins and enzymes, damage to the ionic form of minerals, denaturation of proteins. Even animal products, when cooked, turn into denatured proteins, unfriendly for digestion, with all health consequences entailed in their due time. Justifying cooking by all means only shows the human nature of attachment to cooked food, pursuit of taste pleasure, and unwillingness to change their ways. Raw and cooked foods are completely different and processed totally differently by the body. They represent different energies. The raw form that has soluble organic oxalic acid, therefore, is desirable way to eat the green leafy veggies. That's the way you get the benefits of oxalic acid, but not the harm of insoluble oxalate compound. Once the leaves of spinach or other plants are harvested, the life force is gradually leaving the body of the plant, slowly turning oxalic acid into oxalate ion. This process in chemistry is identified as dissociation of hydrogen, or deprotonation of hydrogen atoms, where oxalic acid loses one of its hydrogen protons, forming the bicarbonate ion first, and then the oxalate ion. This oxalate ion is readily available to bind with calcium ions inside the same plant and form calcium oxalate, which now is still partially soluble. Cooking and thermal processing in general expedites the dissociation of hydrogen protons and binds calcium into harsh, insoluble compound, prone to crystallization. Oxalic acid and oxalate are used interchangeably in nutritional science, which, as we see now, can be a big misrepresentation and should be differentiated to avoid this principal confusion. And though both of them are considered organic, the calcium oxalate poorly fits into the definition of such. Based on chemical terminology, the defining characteristic of an organic compound is the presence of carbon atoms bonded to hydrogen atoms, CH bonds essentially. A carbon-hydrogen bond is what defines an organic compound. However, it is still considered to be correct in the scientific community to use the term organic based on other definitions and for the reason it is naturally occurring in a living plant. Chemically identical substances can exist in organic, transitional, inorganic, and stereoisomeric forms. The best form of any nutrient is the natural state in raw fresh food that contains all organic components and living enzymes. And of course the same applies to the oxalic acid. So applying the term inorganic to the cooked food containing insoluble calcium oxalate salt seems like a more appropriate way to describe it. So thinks Dr. Norman Walker, a distinguished naturopath and author of a number of books on natural health, and many other people in medical and scientific field consider calcium oxalate to be inorganic chemical compound. Let's see what Dr. Norman Walker has arrived in his lifelong research and study of this matter.
In raw spinach, nature has furnished man with the finest organic material for the cleansing, reconstruction, and regeneration of the intestinal tract. Raw spinach juice, properly prepared, taken at the rate of about 1 pint daily, has often corrected the most aggravated case of constipation within a few days or weeks. Unfortunately, the use of purgatives for the cleansing of the intestinal tract is practiced without an understanding of exactly what takes place. Every manufactured chemical, inorganic purgative or laxative acts as an irritant, stimulating the muscles of the intestines to expel it. With the expulsion of this irritant, other matter lodged therein may also be expelled.
It is obvious, and in practice it is proved to be a fact, that the habit of taking laxatives necessitates stronger and stronger irritants. The result is not a cure for constipation, but a chronic condition of inactivity of the local tissues, muscles, and nerves. Cathartics are merely irritants, and while they remove some of the waste matter, they cannot possibly cause anything other than progressive degeneration of the intestines. On the other hand, raw spinach juice effectively cleanses and helps to heal not only the lower bowels, but the entire intestinal tract. The spinach works by natural means to repair the most essential damage first. It is not always apparent to the individual where in his body the work of regeneration is progressing. Results may not be noticeable sometimes for as long as 6 weeks or 2 months after daily consumption of this juice. Another valuable feature of raw spinach juice is its effect on the teeth and gums in helping to prevent diarrhea. This disease is a mild form of scurvy and results from a deficiency in the body of the elements found particularly in the combination of carrot and spinach juices. Bleeding gums and fibroid degeneration of the pulp of the teeth has become a common defect due to the habitual use of devitalized cereals, refined sugar, and other deficiency foods. It is due to vitamin C deficiency. Other derangements of the body, such as duodenal and other ulcers, pernicious anemia, convulsions, degeneration of various nerves, deficiency in adrenal secretions and those of the thyroid, neuritis, arthritis, abscesses and boils, pains in the region of the gonads, swelling of limbs, tendency to hemorrhage, loss of vigor, rheumatic and other pains, impaired functions of the heart, low and high blood pressure, eye troubles, and headaches, including those of a migraine character, are due primarily to the cumulative volume of waste matter in the lower intestine. This is also due to the deficiency of the elements contained in raw carrot and spinach. When spinach is the subject matter of discussion, one generally associates it with its effectiveness as a laxative. The underlying cause for this effectiveness is the high oxalic acid content in this vegetable. This is such an important element involved in the activities of our intestines that it is worthy of very special attention, and we have given a whole chapter to the subject of oxalic acid. Spinach should never be eaten when cooked, unless we are particularly anxious to accumulate oxalic acid crystals in our kidneys with the consequent pain and kidney trouble. When spinach is cooked or canned, the oxalic acid atoms become inorganic as a result of excessive heat and may form oxalic acid crystals in the kidneys. If the important organs comprising the alimentary and eliminative departments of our system, or any parts of them, are moribund or dead, the efficiency of their function is impaired, to say the least. This condition can result only from a lack or deficiency of live atoms in the food nourishing the cells and tissues concerned. Live food means that food which contains live organic atoms and enzymes found only in our raw foods. We have in previous chapters covered this important question of organic versus inorganic atoms in our food. It is very vital to stress this matter in regards to oxalic acid. When the food is raw, whether whole or in the form of juice, every atom in such food is vital, organic, and is replete with enzymes. Therefore, the oxalic acid in our raw vegetables and their juices is organic, and as such is not only beneficial, but essential for the physiological functions of the body. Perishing of a vegetable leads to deprotonation of hydrogen atoms in oxalic acid. It becomes oxalate and bonds with calcium. Both oxalic acid and calcium should remain in raw and chemically organic form to avoid the harmful effects of crystallized oxalate. As soon as the vegetables are exposed to cooking, the soluble oxalic acid forms insoluble salt with calcium. Additionally, the ionic form of calcium in raw vegetables is also lost with cooking.
calcium ions turn into insoluble salt, 3 times more compact in density, making vegetables and fruit compounds and elements change their biochemical form and become unusable and impossible for the body tissues to process them correctly. They may get absorbed into circulation, but from there will turn into crystallized calcifications and deposit in different parts of the body, forming stones and plaques. Our digestive tract is not a cooking pot and should not be compared to it. Cooking is not a predigestive process that increases nutrient bioavailability, making them readily available for absorption, like many people think. It is exactly the opposite. Cooking degrades and kills most of nutrients in food, turning them into slow poisons and waste matter inside our body, even before they have a chance to serve us. And it is not a positive condition for health. Furthermore, the damaged oxalic acid, bonded with calcium and transitioned into insoluble salt, annihilates the nutritional value of both. Moreover, it leads to calcium deficit, which slowly causes degeneration of the bone tissue. Same way it blocks other minerals from the food to be properly and fully absorbed. The worst part is when the concentration of oxalates is too high, they sediment as crystals, very particular to people who love soups made of spinach, rhubarb, and other greens. Generally, cooked food have dehydrating effect on leafy tissues, and under the condition of poor hydration, these tiny crystals accumulate primarily in kidneys and urinary bladder in the form of calcified stones. Please keep in mind that the oxalic acid is beneficial and even needed by our body, but only if taken in the raw, thermally unprocessed form. Therefore, organic oxalic acid should not be considered toxic or poisonous and classified as anti-nutrient, but its insoluble harsh counterparty, inorganic calcium oxalate. When you drink smoothie made with fresh spinach and other fresh greens, you're getting all the benefits they can offer you. Back to Norman Walker and his book, Fresh Vegetables and Fruit Juices, almost a century ago explaining this misunderstanding. The oxalic acid in cooked and processed foods, however, is definitely dead or inorganic, and as such is both pernicious and destructive. Oxalic acid readily combines with calcium. If these are both organic, the result is a beneficial constructive combination, as the former helps the digestive assimilation of the latter, at the same time stimulating the peristaltic functions in the body. The efficiency of this peristaltic action, however, is very naturally dependent on the tone and healthy vigorous condition of the nerves and muscles of these channels. Organic oxalic acid is one of the important elements needed to maintain the tone of and to stimulate peristalsis. When the oxalic acid has become inorganic by cooking or processing the foods that contain it, then this acid forms an interlocking compound with the calcium, even combining with the calcium in other foods, eaten during the same meal, destroying the nourishing value of both. This results in such a serious deficiency of calcium that it has been known to cause decomposition of the bones. This is the reason I never eat cooked or canned spinach. As to the oxalic acid itself, when converted into inorganic acid by cooking or processing the food, it often results in causing inorganic oxalic acid crystals to form in the kidneys. It is worthy to notice that the minerals in our foods, iron for example, frequently cannot be assimilated and used completely if they have become inorganic through cooking, and often prevent the utilizing of other elements through chemical and other action. Thus, the iron in fresh raw spinach juice may be utilized 100%, but only 1/5 of that, or less, would be usable in cooked spinach. It is well to bear in mind, therefore, that as the organic oxalic acid is so vital to our well-being, the fresh raw juice of the vegetable containing it should be used daily to supplement the eating of these raw vegetables included in our daily salads. By Dr. Norman Walker. As we see, drinking the fresh smoothies and juices made with spinach and other greens and vegetables can strengthen the bones, positively affect the cardiovascular system, improve the sight vision, prevent the cataracts, protect the respiratory system from infections and inflammatory processes in nasopharyngeal cavity. It is good for sinus and bronchitis. It dries out and removes mucus from airways, improves the GI function. And on the other hand, this is important, clears out the kidneys from the toxins and salts as it produces the diuretic effect. It's also beneficial for the skin and hair. Oxalic acid reduces the itchiness and irritations of the skin, redness and rash, healing of the wounds, making the skin elastic, smoothing the wrinkles. The quality and quantity of the beneficial properties depend on the storage. The freshly cut leafy vegetables can store in a refrigerator for up to 5 days. Dry freezing is another way to store the greens, which after defrosting should be used as quickly as possible. Let's summarize. To avoid problems with health, stop cooking your greens and other vegetables. Avoid mixing raw green smoothies and vegetables with cooked meals. Always have them away from each other, starting with the raw food first. Consider, raw food is the only and ultimate natural way of nutrition that puts you on the way to thrive. Cooked food, no matter how people want to make you look healthy, will always be degrading to health, some types more than others. The emotional attachment to it is very strong, and that affects our mind to pursue it at all costs. Clouds our clear judgment, including ignoring and trampling the common sense, engaging our intellect to then justify it. If that's where you are, at least be honest and say, I want my taste and pleasure, and nothing else matters. I don't care until I have to.
If you find this video helpful, please give it a like, share it with your family and friends, subscribe to our channel, and get notifications. Also, leave a comment of at least 8 words. Comments make difference.